Okay, let's get started. I don't have a lot. I try to focus. It makes it a little bit easier for me to prepare these things when you keep the subject matter to a limited amount. But I'll start off with Sierra Nevada. I did this in January, but I'll give you a bit of an update on it. Crude Dream Chaser. They use the acronym at Sierra Nevada of CDC. All right. As I said in January, it has its heritage back to the good old days of the dinosaur, the lifting bodies. You know, remember the $250 billion man? He crashed it in an M2F2 actually. In fact, it was that one that crashed, and then they rebuilt it.
So in the opening to that shot, that's the actual thing.
Nope, it was an M2F2, and that picture that you see there is an M2F3. It's got the middle fin, okay? And that's the rebuilt machine that actually crashed.
Did you know that in a later episode where he goes back and flies a lifting body again, they actually show a different
lifting body.
Different lifting body. That's
anyway, we digress. The main, I guess, influence came from the Bore 4 lifting body. And in fact, that picture on the bottom left-hand corner was taken by the Royal Australian Air Force in the Indian Ocean. They actually took that picture, and the Americans, it's called a wave rider. If you make the lifting body a certain size and you don't make it bigger, it can actually ride the shock wave somehow and limits the amount of stresses and heat on the lifting body. So the Dream Chaser is an ideal size for that very thing. Space Shuttle, on the other hand, is brute force hypersonics. But this is pretty cool. So it had its influence there. It also had its influence from the HL-10, which was a NASA program of supply and crew to ISS. Then there was the X-38, which was a lifeboat. The idea was to dock it onto the ISS and provide a degree of safety. Then we had Dream Chaser. So this idea has been around since 2004, where Sierra Nevada proposed a plane for ISS operations.
Didn't that vehicle before become the Air Force thing that you're using now?
No, different.
Not
different.
Dream.
No, the X-37B. Yeah, the X-37Bs. No, doesn't have a heritage on this path. All right. So in early 2010, NASA awarded the program, which was commercial crew development, and they awarded to fund the development of crewed Dream Chaser. Further funding came in 2011 and 12. I'll go through this because I did this last time, but you probably don't remember it. So it demonstrated its flight capability in automatic flights during 2013 and 17. At that stage, they're competing for the manned operations to ISS. Okay, and there it was. This was the craft that they used for their capture carry tests and eventually into their drop tests. And I always looked at some of these videos of it coming in and landing, and to me it looked a bit unstable, but it turns out they're actually doing that on purpose to check the aerodynamics of it. So it's probably more stable than I thought, but it glides well. And it's got a skid on the front nose. Again, it reduces the complication of having a nose wheel and a few other bits and pieces. So it's a nifty idea. There it is. Why Dream Chaser? 5.5 tons to ISS, pressurized and unpressurized cargo. It has potential to boost the ISS. So when the Russians leave, they can still boost, because at the moment it's the Progress spacecraft that actually boost the ISS. Dragon can't do it. SpaceX's Dragon can't do it. CSST-100 can boost the space station, but this can as well.
Is the HLV the Japanese one?
No, they can't do it. No parachutes are needed. Low Gs, it actually keeps its Gs down to 1.5 Gs in landing, which means if you've got a very sensitive cargo coming in from the station, you're not going to destroy it. No toxic fuels. They've tried to be as green as they possibly can with fuels, and it can land at any airport. And it's immediate access to crew and cargo. So
at any airport in terms of runway length.
yeah,
They got approval to land at Huntsville.
correct.
Yeah.
The other day, about 5 days ago, the FAA gave approval to land at Huntsville International Airport in Alabama. So it may be at Huntsville because it's, Rocket City. The runway may be a bit longer, but it's generally designed to land at any runway, any international airport, which is pretty cool. So maybe we can get it to Melbourne one day, or Australia for that matter. Yeah. In 2014, NASA didn't select Dream Chaser for crewed transportation. They selected, of course, CST-100. I'll bet someone's biting their tongue on that one. And of course, Crew Dragon, which has been an outstanding success. It's had 5 manned flights, or crewed flights, I should say, and kicking goals. The current status, 2016, Sierra Nevada did get awarded cargo resupply. So 3 companies got that, and Dream Chaser was one of them. So it's the uncrewed Dream Chaser, UDC, was scheduled to fly in 2021, but that would be delayed to 2022. Well, guess what? After some further delays, it won't be flying till next year. However, the window is between the end of November and the end of February. So if one was a betting man, you'd say, somewhere in between. It will launch on the second flight of the Vulcan, which is the new ULA rocket, which is awaiting on the Jeff Bezos B4 engines, haven't arrived yet. So chances are it will be delayed launching off a Vulcan. However, ULA have guaranteed Sierra Nevada they will provide an Atlas if they have to. With the Russian engines, you got it. So one way or the other, by February, we're hoping, fingers crossed, we'll see the first demonstration flight of the uncrewed Dream Chaser with the Shooting Star boot. That add-on at the back is terrific. It caters for NASA's needs of disposal of stuff. It takes stuff up in a pressurized form. It can be left in space on its own if it needs to be, but it actually burns up on re-entry at the end of the mission, whilst Dream Chaser itself brings the astronauts back. It's designed to fit on any rocket, like it's currently going up on an Atlas, but will fly on a Vulcan, will also fly in an Ariane, and they didn't show it in this picture, but can also fly in a Falcon 9.
9 or heavy?
Both. Why would you need a heavy for something like that? So there's early concepts of it sitting on top of the Atlas, but that was the manned version. And apparently the crewed version is still going to launch that way without the wings folding back, as far as I can tell, even though they'll validate that they can actually put a crewed Dream Chaser inside a shroud.
It's a 39
That it would probably, no, Dream Chaser will fly from the ULA pad, which is 40.
Just the configuration of that shuttle pad.
No, it's not shuttle pad. There it is. That's it folded away in the 5-meter shroud. And there it is flying on a Vulcan in 2023.
When's the first Vulcan supposed to fly?
By the end of the year, but if they don't get their engines within the next month, then that'll all push out. The first launch will be the Peregrine, the Astrobotics moon lander. That'll be the first mission of the Vulcan. rocket, and the second mission will be Dream Chaser. And there it is. There's solar panels on the boot, and there it is docked to the station.
So is that boot designed to be detached on re-entry and just burn up?
Correct. That's it re-entering, and I didn't show the picture of the boot, but that just comes off and just re-enters. See, NASA need to dispose of their rubbish, and NASA's criteria was download and upload. The upload of stuff can go easily, pressurized, and downloaded disposal, Shooting Star does that job. Okay. And there's an interesting picture at probably Huntsville International with the uncrewed and crewed Dream Chaser. This is Shooting Star being constructed, but these are the latest pictures. There it is. This is Tenacity. This is the first of the Dream Chasers, and they're building another one, Dream Chaser number 2, and a third's being considered for national security missions. So they seem to have about 3 on the books. There it is. You can see tiles going on already, and that's where they will be putting the tiles on. Tiles is obviously there for thermal protection.
So it doesn't have its own rocket engine, basically gets boosted up and attaches.
It'll have its own thrusters, like orbital maneuvering thrusters and stuff like that. But Shooting Star does a lot of that heavy lift stuff. That's where most of the propulsion is. These will just have orbital maneuvering, minor orbital maneuvering. And there's the big team that's here in Nevada Space doing their thing. And have we got time for a slideshow? Yeah.
Could this Dream Chaser spacecraft herald a new dawn in commercial space travel? Showcased at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, the Dream Chaser will start off with NASA cargo missions. But it's also being remodeled to carry humans too. The spaceplane is being developed by Colorado-based Sierra Space, the spaceflight wing of defense contractor Sierra Nevada Corporation. John Roth is Sierra Space's Vice President of Business Development.
And behind me, you'll see our Dream Chaser space vehicle. This vehicle is currently under contract with NASA under the Commercial Resupply Services contract. And we have a contract for 7 missions to the International Space Station to be able to take cargo up to the space station as well as science experiments and return those science experiments to the Earth.
The company has also signed a deal with Blue Origin to help build a private space station for commercial use called Orbital Reef.
In addition to the cargo vehicle, we're currently developing a crew version of the vehicle that will be able to carry 6 astronauts to and from low Earth orbit to work both on the International Space Station, but also for a commercial destination that we're developing in conjunction with Blue Origin. Our space station is called Orbital Reef, and it's going to be a totally commercial space station that we own and operate and work with commercial businesses for realizing their commercial businesses in space.
In December 2021, NASA awarded $130 million to Blue Origin to help develop its Orbital Reef space station, in partnership with both Sierra Space and Boeing. Blue Origin hopes Orbital Reef will be a hub for commercial industries such as manufacturing, entertainment, sports, gaming, and adventure travel, in addition to being a home for crewed and cargo missions. NASA announced in December that in total it had awarded over $415 million to Blue Origin, stalwart contractor Northrop Grumman, and venture-backed NanoRacks to develop privately owned and operated commercial space stations. The trio of awards are emblematic of the US Space Agency's effort to tap private companies to enable an American-led commercial economy in low Earth orbit, as the iconic International Space Station potentially retires at the end of the decade. And with the so-called space race heating up, the designers of the Dream Chaser are hoping their reusable space vessel will also help launch a new era in the commercialization of space exploration and travel. The Dream Chaser spacecraft is expected to have its maiden space voyage at the end of 2022.
Okay.
Could
I'll play you this one. This is the latest. This is good. Pretty cool. That's probably a month old. Okay, the future. We'll enter service in 2023 for 6 commercial flights for NASA. It's part of their commercial crew integrated program, which is still active. And that's the program that was the manned component. So that's still active. NASA doesn't pay Sierra Nevada any dollars, but it still cooperates heavily with NASA. NASA issued a request for information October 21 for the ability to take astronauts to the station. However, Sierra Nevada didn't get a crack at that. SpaceX got exclusive rights to take astronauts in this little additional proposal here. But NASA obviously reserves the right to award if they need to. So Europe is very interested. 1.4 billion was raised in late 2021 by Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada have committed that they will develop the crewed version irrespective of NASA money. So we know it's coming. So Sierra Nevada has said that with or without it, it's 70% there with that money, almost there. We'll be ready for 2026. And that date is the orbital reef. They're a big player with Blue Origin as part of that private space station initiative. So Sierra Nevada provide a module as well as the mechanism for getting up there through Dream Chaser. Of course, Boeing does as well.
It also require the human rating of the ULA, right?
Yeah, I'll come to that. This has come about because of obviously Sierra Nevada's partnership with Blue Origin. Huntsville International Airport was just awarded the license, as we said before, to land Dream Chasers, and I'm sure that other airports will follow suit in trying to get FAA approval. So that's it for Dream Chaser. I'll come back to that comment you made about the manned rating, because at the moment there's only 2 man-rated vehicles that the Americans fly. That's there's only one. I don't think Atlas is man-rated. I don't think it's man-rated. So they've only got one.
But the next flight's supposed to be.
Vulcan is not man-rated.
So the next Starliner crewed flight is going to be on a Vulcan?
No, Starliner is going to go up on an Atlas.
So it's going to be man-rated.
Sorry, you're right. Atlas is therefore man-rated for Starliner's use. However, Vulcan is not man-rated. ULA doesn't want to pay for it, nor does Jeff Bezos, and NASA certainly doesn't. So there's some interesting discussions and negotiations that are going to take place to figure out when they phase out the Atlases, and there's already a limited number of them, as to what the Americans are going to do in terms of launching CST 100 and launching the Dream Chaser. But I'm sure Elon will step to the market and say, you can have a few Falcon 9s if you like. That'll go down like a lead balloon. Okay, so there's the commercial crew as it currently stands. SpaceX, as I said, has been going well, but tonight we're talking about CST 100. We all know what it looks like. I hope you do by now. That's what it looks like inside. In December 20th, 2019, orbital flight test number 1 took place, and it all went belly up. Software, the time controllers weren't working, and they basically cut the mission short, and it came back. Finally, on the 19th of April, I've skipped a particular one, and I'll get back to it, but the 19th of April, this year, a few days ago, they finally launched Orbital Flight Test 2. That's 3 years after SpaceX first did it. Late 2022, 23, we're going to get the first flight test of a crewed CST or Starliner. I'll comment about that in a minute also. Finally, in 2023, big question mark, the first operational mission. They've got 6 missions to accomplish for NASA. And the idea is to alternate between the Dragon and Starliner, taking cargo to the space station. Okay, so there's OF CST. Is that OF2? No, that could be OF1.
Yeah, they tried it, they roll back on that.
No.
So use the ULA launch site, which is either 40 or 41.
40.
When was the last time Americans sent anyone into space not from 39?
It's a good question. It would have been Gemini, obviously.
Oh, Apollo 8 went off.
Apollo 7.
Apollo 7.
It took off from one of the, missile row launch pads. Then Apollo 8 was, and from there on was all pad 39A, 39B.
Yeah, so you have to go back to Apollo 7.
Yeah.
Apollo 7 was the last time, which was back in 1968, October 68. Okay, so this was back in 2019. This was flight test number 1. And it came back down at night and landed on airbags in New Mexico. Interestingly enough, the video and all the live feeds that we get from Boeing have been absolutely woeful. Blue Origin's not that far behind. They've improved a little bit, but I tell you, SpaceX, and not because I'm a SpaceX fanboy, but their coverage, live stream coverages are just phenomenal. These guys, Boeing, you watch what they do when,
They need to use Fox 40. They use more cameras.
All right, now let's go back to this OFT T2, which is a current mission, currently up there. Was originally hoped to be operational in 2017. It's been plagued by delays ever since. In 2019, it was cut short because of an issue with Starliner's onboard clock. The error caused the thrusters on board the capsule to misfire, knocking it off course, and officials decided to bring the spacecraft back home rather than continue the mission. And there were all sorts of anomalies, and they say that if it was crewed, they'd be able to take whatever. But we had the service module at the very last end almost crash into the capsule, and that would have been disastrous. So did not go well. After that, Boeing were tasked with fixing 150 correction notices and had to rewrite the programs. And it turns out that Boeing didn't do any integrated testing, if you can believe this. Boy, if you read some of the stuff on this, it just makes your hair curl, really. An attempt to launch a repeat flight then in August 2021 eventuated, and lo and behold, stuck valves prevented the launch. The spacecraft was rolled back from the launch pad. They were unable to fix the problem. The problem appears to be, get this, at the Cape, humidity interacting with nitrogen tetroxide propellant to create nitric acid that corroded the valves. So when they tried to close them, they couldn't. They were corroded. So Boeing and NASA continue, even to this day, after 2019, continue to try to isolate the root cause. And there is talk now of a complete redesign of that system, and but they didn't want to stop the current mission, right? So they may try to fly with the current configuration, but they know that in the long term, they may have to redesign this whole thing. Boeing and Rocketdyne were the ones that provided the thrusters, in a little bit of dispute over this, as you can imagine. In the meanwhile, a new service module was installed on Starliner to allow the OFT-2 mission to actually proceed. And this time they put things like probably plastic over the thruster opening so that moisture doesn't get in there, and a few other nitrogen purges and stuff to the thrusters, but absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, so that was the valve problem. OFT was finally launched a few days back, and there it is, going to the pad. It is on the pad. That skirt, by the way, what it does is it lowers the shock wave that actually during launch that actually hits the Centaur upper stage. If they didn't have that, they'd concentrate the shock wave to certain parts of the Centaur, which would not be a good thing. So they put on that skirt. Doesn't look very elegant, but works. When the Vulcan rocket comes about, it's got a larger diameter, so they won't have the skirt probably. There's the launch. So this is what it looked like in artist rendition. The booster separated, sorry.
That looks very cool.
Yeah. Now, it turns out during the launch, the Atlas overperformed. It actually got them into a further position in space. They fly a very low trajectory, but it overperformed. So the Centaur upper stage had to compensate to get it back into the right orbit for release. And lo and behold, we have those little thrusters, keep them in mind, releasing the CST-100 and service module. So Atlas overperformed, Centaur corrected. Now we're got the CST-100 on its own. There it goes. There's the OMACs, they're called, orbital maneuvering and attitude control. Thrusters are used to separate and maneuver in orbit. They fire up. There are 4 banks, they're called doghouses, along the body of the service module of 3 engines. So they've got 3 engines, 3 engines, 3 engines, 3 engines. They're not used for docking. They're just used for orbital maneuvering and separation. 1 engine fires and cuts out straight away. The second engine fires for 30 seconds and then also cuts out. The third engine fires and works properly. Part of the built-in redundancy is the going report. However, they're all from one bank. So clearly there's a problem downstream. NASA nor Boeing are commenting much on this stuff. They're all keeping mum's the word. Again, could it be the valves again? In a hot test fire in 2018, if you recall, the engine shut down after 1.5 seconds and the valves caused problems where they failed to close and they leaked toxic fuel. And basically they wrecked, the service module, had to clean it up and do whatever. Could this be part of that service module and part of that test? Don't know. So there's an ongoing problem here. It's not unusual, it turns out, to have reaction control systems problems. Dragon had them in the early days. Apollo had them, and Skylab as well. So they're not unusual. Yes.
You mentioned Gemini
8. Let's not mention Gemini 8. But in desperation, and I wrote this, to have a second vehicle due to Russia, redundancy, etc., has NASA underplayed this? Is it willing to take chances? And I get this funny feeling, based on what I've read, is NASA's taking chances. They're desperate to get CST-100 going. And I don't know if it's pressure from Boeing, if it's pressure from the Senate, whatever, but they want to get Boeing up there at all cost. And there, you can see the thrusters firing, and you can see each bank, there's 4 of them, where the round circle, there are 3 reaction control rockets there.
How thrusters are firing in opposite directions?
Opposite directions? No, who knows? Probably fine adjustment, fine tuning. Okay, so they'll be coming back on Thursday morning, Australian time, 8:45 Eastern Standard. What will Boeing and NASA do to resolve the problem as the service module is going to be jettisoned? So prime evidence number 1, it burns up in the atmosphere. So what are they relying on trying to find out what went wrong? Telemetry. They haven't figured out what went wrong with the valves and the corrosion yet, definitively, if you can believe that. Now they're going to have to rely on telemetry to figure out.
They can't go out and do an EVA because the suits are not suitable.
Suits are not suitable. I'll get to that. Yeah. So after 30 months of problems plus $500 million at Boeing's expense, I might add, you'd think that they should have resolved this by now. They've spent $500 million Boeing on this, and this is where we are.
I'm surprised that this isn't a solved problem because we've been launching that nitrogen tetroxide thrusters in space for over 50 years.
I'm flabbergasted by this.
Nitrogen tetroxide reacted with Cape humidity to make nitric oxide and seal valves. None of the lunar modules would have worked.
As I said, I'm perplexed by this.
Have they made a cargo starship yet? That can just grab it.
Bit like the James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Elon's working on that. Another problem is it flies on Atlas V, but Atlas launches are now limited, as we said before. So it's unable to fly Vulcan as it's not a manned rated rocket, could fly in Falcon. But there's no way they're going to fly in a competitor. So they've got a couple of problems here, big problems.
I just looked up, Angelo, there's 22 Atlas launches remaining. That's a number of RD-180s they've got, and 6 of those are already assigned to CST-100. So that's 12 remaining boosters, which a lot of them are already committed to NRO flights. So they'll have to work it out, and they'll have eventually the government will pay to man rate Vulcan. That's what will happen.
I said that's exactly what's going to happen. But you see, here's the interesting thing. If they've already got the Atlases allocated, which I think you're right, they've got the 6 ready to go. For NASA to give an extended contract to Boeing, they're not going to have an Atlas. They're going to have man-rated rockets. And NASA is not in the mood, and you would have heard Nelson the other week, he's over this cost plus stuff, right? He wants the commercial industry to take the risk where necessary and fix their problems if they can't deliver. So what's going to happen is, if NASA want to extend the contract, they're going to have to, pay Boeing to do it. Already, to send an astronaut to space through a Dragon costs $55 million. To actually send an astronaut to space costs on a CST-100 costs $95 million. So already they're taking advantage of it.
Angelo,
Yep.
how much you got to go?
I'm going to skip the video.
I'm just wondering though whether Sierra Nevada will leapfrog Boeing because of that man rating issue. Although they still need, and they can fly in any vendor's rocket.
Yeah. Can I just tell you what's going to happen is this. If NASA want to extend the contract, they've got to help fund Vulcan man rating. However, the big pusher is the 2026 date for the orbital reef, and that is a private commercial enterprise, and that's Blue Origin, Boeing, Sierra Nevada. They'll end up having to fork out the money to man rate to supply that orbital reef, and so that NASA, I suspect, will contribute in a limited way to get their extended supply of the station. But you're right, NASA will end up paying something, but I suspect the heavy dollars will come from the commercial sector. Anyway, moving on. At the moment on the space station, we've got 5 separate spacecraft docked with it, which is pretty cool. We've got Cygnus, we've got the CST-100 or Starliner, we've got Dragon, we've got Progress. There's 2 of them up there, and we've got a Soyuz. So historical event. Okay, I'm not going to play the videos, but I'll talk very quickly about 2 other subjects. International Space Station. NASA spacesuits, which were developed for the Space Shuttle program and probably some of the oldest gear on the ISS, have had recent water ingress problems.
No, I presented this before.
Did you? Okay, so I can go through. So spacewalks have stopped. As you know, they were due to be replaced in 2028. Did you mention that? 2028. So they've got 6 years to use these spacesuits. So they've got a problem. They can be used in an emergency, or maybe the Russian all-land spacesuits. And seeing they're getting on with the Russians like a house on fire, that'll go down well too. So they really do have a problem. They've got 2 problems with spacesuits. Now the ISS, but also the moon landing. They're still trying to develop those spacesuits for the 2025 supposedly moon landing. ULA, there's not really much to say. This is the Vulcan. It's got 2 B-4 engines. They are the most powerful rockets in the American inventory. They are actually more powerful than the RS-25s, and they are more powerful than the Raptor by a little bit. They're methane, natural gas is methane, right?
Yes.
Methane / liquid oxygen engines. ULA still expects to get the first flight models later this year, and I put hopefully and fingers crossed, because if they don't, they're not going to be launching this year. They'll be launching next year. B4, the largest American rocket, slightly more powerful, I just said that, continues to go through qualifying tests. The other day they were firing them up and they seem to perform really well. But again, the proof of the pudding is delivery.
How the valves go.
Not a BE, not a Blue Origin problem. The first mission of Vulcan is to launch the astrobotic lander, and the second mission will fly the Dream Tracer, as I said. There's the astrobotic lander. This will be cool. Back to the moon, and there's Dream Tracer. One last comment. This is the only picture I have of SpaceX.
Almost made it.
In the next few days, we're expecting an FAA announcement. I suspect, based on what SpaceX are doing, because they're going full bore, looking to a launch probably in June, July, they'll probably give the approval conditionally. And the conditions will be that they're going to have to look after the turtles, the birds, all the wildlife, and do all sorts of things. And with Elon's money, he should be able to do it. So look out for that. That's going to be really big news to give the launch go-ahead from Boca Chica in
Pay
Texas.
all the turtles and birds and mobile.
They which?
What's he gonna do? Pay all the turtles and birds.
No, I don't know what they give them holidays when they launch rocket. But as a backup plan, you do know that he's constructing the pad 39A, new facility for the Starship Super Heavy combination. And that's going at a great rate of knots. They've built 6 of the tower sections already sitting at Roberts Road, which is at Kennedy Space Centre. They're already sitting there waiting for the foundations and the structure for the base of that you can see down the bottom, the concrete. That's almost poured, and they've got a number of legs standing for the pad. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Angelo.